Also, in the audience, we have, I know the jury is there, but we also have our new economic development manager visiting. He's coming from Windsor, Grand Falls, from Brian Baker.
Yes.
Right, and he'll be joining the city of Dauphin on January 13th. He's just in to survey the town, and we're looking forward for his contribution to our community. We acknowledge that the land on which we gather is Treaty 2 land known as First Nations territory, homeland of the Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, and the Métis Nation. Moved by Councillor Eilers and seconded by Councillor Stakilo, be it resolved that council accepts the regular agenda as presented. Any questions? All the questions, all in favor? Motion carried. Moved by Councillor Yell, seconded by Councillor Juba, be it resolved that council waives the reading and accepts and approves as circulated the minutes of the following meeting, regular council meeting of November the 4th, 2019. Any errors, omissions, questions? Call the questions, all in favor? Motion carried. Now we'll go into public hearings. We have members of the Dauphin, the local hotels in Dauphin, and from what I understand, there'll be a presentation by Mr. Cooley and Mr. Jocelyn, is it?
Jocelyn.
Yeah. And we'll roughly 20 minutes, and we'll have questions after that. Go ahead.
So first of all, thank you for giving us some time to speak. I'm going to let Scott Johnson is here from the Manitoba Hotel Association, and was willing to come out and have some conversation with us tonight. And so I'll let Scott start, and we'll bring some thoughts from the local.
Welcome to Dauphin.
Thank you very much for having me out. I really want to thank you for the short notice to get me on the agenda. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. It's really important issue. I'm thankful to have the support of the hotel community behind me tonight. So it's great to be here. Thank you again for the opportunity. So I'm Scott Jocelyn, President and CEO of the Manitoba Hotel Association. I'm pleased to be here to offer some input into your proposed bylaw to create an accommodation tax in Dauphin. So first and foremost, I want to stress that this is a local issue. Understand that. The decision whether or not to implement this new tax should be made locally. I'm not here to try and impose my view from outside your community. However, in my 4 years now with the association, it is an issue that's come up in other communities, and I would feel I feel that you're taking my experience or hearing my perspective is something that you should do, and again, I appreciate that opportunity tonight. So the reasons for being here are first to understand and support the views of local hoteliers, and two, to share the perspective I've gained from speaking to the hoteliers and the other communities where accommodation taxes have been implemented already. So as I mentioned, very important issue. I found out about it on Thursday and was able to change my plans quickly to make sure that I was with you tonight. So accommodation taxes are one of the top issues we hear about from our members at the Manitoba Hotel Association. In communities that have them, there is a dissatisfaction on the part of local hotels that collect funds. Once the accommodation taxes and their associated bylaws are in place and approved by the province, it's difficult to change or remove them. If I could make one point with you tonight, it is essential to get the bylaws right when they are written, rather than facing the subsequent years of discord we have seen in other communities. I'd like to take a moment to offer some historical perspective on these types of taxes. In Canada, levies on accommodation were actually initiated by the hotel industry itself. The first was in Toronto. It was called a destination marketing fee, and its sole function was to attract tourists and events to benefit the local economy and the local tourism industry. Hotels and other jurisdictions followed suit with their own destination marketing fees to boost tourism in their own cities and towns. Here in Manitoba, the first destination marketing fee was actually proposed by Winnipeg hoteliers. The idea was to collect 2% on each hotel stay with the proceeds going to a fund that would attract large events to the city. Hotels are willing to take on the collection and the administration of this type of levy, since they knew the funds collected will be reinvested in generating additional hotel stays. Unfortunately, when the city of Winnipeg learned of the hotel industry's idea, they decided to implement themselves. They renamed it an accommodation tax. They more than doubled the per night charge to 5% and forced hotels to collect it without any compensation or any say to how the funds would be spent. So 7 other municipalities have followed suit, adding their own new taxes that raise hotel room rates without substantially reinvesting in the tourism industry. As I mentioned earlier, the way these taxes were implemented and the way that these funds have been spent has been a source of frustration for hoteliers. It's important to remember that hotels incur significant costs in collecting these taxes. Not only their administration costs, but also all associated credit card fees. The $25 of compensation being offered to hoteliers in the Dauphin bylaw will not come close to covering these costs. The hotels will also have to field questions and complaints from their guests who must pay the tax. It does not seem unreasonable for hotels to expect that some of these funds will be reinvested in their industry to benefit not only them, but also the entire local community, the local economy. It's important to remember that hotels pay taxes based on their incomes. When hotels lose money, their local communities are hurt directly through lower property tax income. When tourists fill hotels, the community's property tax income increases. I would argue that if your aim through the new tax is to increase revenues for the city of Dauphin, then the most effective way to do that is to help hotel properties be successful. Your proposed bylaw does not propose to invest any of these proceeds from your tax into tourism. That's simply unacceptable. The bylaw represents a great opportunity for partnership between the town and the local hotel industry. I believe everyone here shares the goal of raising additional revenues for your community. Using some of these funds from this tax to meaningfully boost tourism will help you reach that goal. I want to thank you for your time this evening. I hope this information has been useful in your deliberations. I wanted to mention that Lance from the Best Western, new hotel being built, it's great to see it being built in your community. I know that he had sent a letter in. I believe that you've got that letter, so it's important that make sure that you have that letter.
Yes, we have it, and it'll be part of our discussions with council after this presentation.
Okay, thank you very much for your time. Pass it over.
Thanks, Scott. It's interesting for me a little bit to sit here, because obviously I don't work in the hotel industry every day. I've worn a few hats around Dauphin in sort of the volunteer world. I was on the DRS board at one time, so I very much understand the challenges that DRS has. I represent a user group right now, the Dauphin Kings, and of course I represent myself as a taxpayer. And I very much understand the awkward position that you guys are in right now, being short of funds. We've never been able to work out an agreement with Lakeshore, the arm of Lakeshore, to have any funding. We've seen cutbacks from the arm of Dauphin, and that's put us in a precarious situation of being short of money. Although recreation is important, so is policing, so is fire, so are roads and sewer systems and water systems. All of that infrastructure that we have in our community are important to us. And I believe that they get funded in the right way, and that's by all of us contributing. We contribute through our water bill, and we contribute through our property taxes. And in doing that, the world's come up with a fair way to tax people so that we can have all those amenities that we want in our community. What I see what's wrong with the proposal that you have in front of you is that you're trying to impose an extra tax on a small segment of the commercial people in town to benefit everybody. You know, and recreation is to the benefit of everybody. Our facilities are to the benefit of everybody. And for the infrastructure of those facilities, I don't see why one industry has to pay versus another. Now, I understand the argument that hotels will benefit from the tourism side of recreation, and we don't disagree at all. But I'm not sure that the understanding is right in terms of how much we benefit. And so one of the examples I give is that this year, throughout our winter, there will be 6 minor hockey tournaments, one of which we just had. We just hosted the Pee Wee tournament. Fantastic, had a whole bunch of teams, good for the hotel industry. But there's only 6 tournaments throughout the winter. One of those 6 tournaments is a Timbits tournament, which is a one-day tournament, so no overnight accommodations necessary. So assuming that the other 5 tournaments create 2 nights each, and I can tell you for sure they don't. I was a minor hockey dad at one time, and we tried hard to only stay out 1 night, not 2. But assuming they were 2 nights each, that's 10 nights. 10 nights out of 365 days that the hotel is open, hockey tournaments will be in there. It's not a lot. Now, there's soccer, and there's rugby, and there's all those other things, and I get that. But if you really knew how much recreation revenue the hotels get, it's not nearly as much as you think it is. I can easily tell you that the #1 revenue generator for our hotels in Dauphin is the commercial traveler, the guy that's staying with us from Sunday to Thursday. Our second biggest revenue source is the construction industry. So when there's great things going on in our town, they built a new elevator a year or so ago. Anyway, the construction industry is our second biggest. Tourism becomes our third biggest, and honestly, recreation tourism is our smallest revenue source at a hotel. Having said that, it's still a source, and we're happy about it. But you know, it's a source of revenue for restaurants and gas bars, sporting goods stores, and potentially other businesses while those people are in town. And yet we only want to tax the one industry. And so I really believe that it's unfair to use a hotel tax or an accommodation tax to fund a capital cost, something that the entire city and all of our people benefit from. So I believe it's an easy tax to implement, but I don't think it at all a fair tax in the way it's proposed. I wanted to bring a point of how it impacts a hotel. So first of all, I know there's some statistics on your proposal that are a little bit wrong, but I'll talk about them in a minute. But today, the posted rate for a regular room at the Super 8 is $139. If you put the PST and GST on that, it works out to $155. I'm going to bore you with some numbers here for a second. And like any good business, as we look into 2020, we see costs that have gone up, and we need to recover those costs. So we will likely add about a 3 to 3.5% increase to that rate in order to cover our costs in 2020. So let's say that rate goes to 144. Well, now after tax, that's 161. With the proposed 5% accommodation tax, that final tax dollar would come to 168. So we start at 155 in November. By January or February, we're at 168. It's a 9% increase in rate. I can just tell you, our commercial travelers won't pay that. Our contracts that we have with construction companies, they won't pay a 9% increase. That's too much of an increase in 1 year. So you're going to ask the hoteliers to absorb some of their necessary increase to offset the natural inflation. Scott mentioned earlier the credit card fees. You know, I know in your proposal you're hoping to collect $200,000 or $300,000 in accommodation tax. $300,000 at a 2% credit card fee is $6,000 that you're going to ask the hoteliers to absorb in the cost of doing business. So, you know, what I would tell you, and I think you could hear it a little bit in Scott's presentation, a hotel tax that acquires money for the reason of tourism, to spend money on tourism, to attract events, whether they're recreational events or other, to our community is something that we would love to sit at the table and talk to you guys about. A tax that would stimulate the economy of our community, we would like to talk about that. But a tax to pay for capital cost expenditures, we don't want to talk about that. That just seems totally unfair. It seems like the wrong way to raise revenue on things that the entire community would benefit from. A few years ago, we were all thrilled, and I was one of them. We were all thrilled when we lowered our mill rate. It was fantastic. It was good for a lot of us. I can tell you that personally, my business tax went down substantially, and naturally, I was happy about that. But my friend was sitting where Al was, or is, and I said to Eric, you know, there's going to come a day when we have to go the other way. And it was easy to lower the mill rate, because it made everybody happy. But it's never going to be fun to take it back up again. Well, you know, it seems to me we're in a position where we need more revenue, and you know, fair taxation is the way we should do it. And potentially one way would be through raising the mill rate. The other thing that I would tell you is that we believe, and I believe, that our facilities are undersold. I believe that we could host more events in their facilities, and I believe that in particular Credit Union Place, our swimming pool, our curling club, are fantastic facilities, and yet we sell them in a way where we compete with communities around us. So to say it bluntly, we want to sell ice and compete with Gilbert Plains. But you know, we're selling ice in a facility that offers so much more, but our rate doesn't reflect that. A year or so ago, Corey, maybe more than a year ago, Corey made a presentation to the DRS on how to come up with the right rates to offset the shortfall of when the RM was pulling back. I believe they were pulling back $100,000. It doesn't take that much of a rate increase to raise that money. Now, rate increases are not fun. Nobody jumps up and down and says, hooray, there's a rate increase. But they are necessary. A minute ago, I talked about raising our rates at our hotels to cover inflation. Well, that's what you guys are facing. You guys have inflation too. You need to pay your staff more money, the electrical bill keeps going up, and so on. And, you know, I can tell you from the Kings' perspective, in my 6 years that I've been with the Kings, I've seen one rate increase. And it was quite a small rate increase. From the Kings' side, I'm thrilled. But I realize from your side, you can't afford to do that. And there needs to be a rate increase on a regular basis, and maybe right now, there needs to be a fairly large rate increase. I'm very happy and acknowledge the fact that you guys have been able to create a large surplus of money. I believe it's $6 or $8 million that we have in surplus. And that's fantastic, you know, from the perspective of a taxpayer, knowing that there's money set aside for the what-if occasion, the rainy day occasion, the things that happen, I think is fantastic. But somewhere along the way, we had enough budget to put a little bit of money in the savings account. And that's what we would teach our kids to do. You know, when you got a little extra money, put it away. And so that's a fantastic thing. What I don't kind of understand is why we can't dip into that money once in a while, knowing that we have surpluses that'll build it back up. There was a time when we owed a lot of money as a city. And we're not there today. We're in a fantastic place compared to where we were a long time ago. And so how did we pay for the arena? How did we get out of debt? And yet how do we come up short in keeping our facilities up and replacing the Zamboni or the carpet or whatever it is that we need to do to keep our facilities in great shape? So I think there's ways to do it without an accommodation tax. You know, I would tell you, and I said it a little bit on Friday, I was disappointed that today is the day that we're talking to you guys about that. What I certainly learned on Friday is that there's been a lot of research by the city on this idea. A little disappointed that we weren't part of that research. I can tell you that in your proposal, you talk about an average daily rate of $148 and an occupancy of 70%. Those are numbers that are fantastic, but they're not real. So you need to talk to these guys about what the real numbers are. Because 70% is not our occupancy rate in the city, nor is $148 our ADR. I guess I would conclude, and then we could talk about some questions if you have any. I would conclude by telling you a couple things. One of the things in your proposal, it talks about a 60-day window whereby they wouldn't be taxed anymore because it would be considered a long-term stay. However, the provincial government says a 30-day stay is not considered a rental anymore and therefore is PST exempt. I would ask that if you're eventually going to have this hotel tax, that you put those two together and make the same. I'd conclude by telling you that as hoteliers, we don't like the idea of a hotel tax that is going to go towards a capital cost expenditure. We don't believe that's fair. We think all of the businesses and the individuals in our community should pay for capital costs. If you would like to talk about a tax that would increase business, tourism, increase the way we market our city for economic development, we'd love to talk about that. If we went down that road, we'd also like to have a representative on that committee to figure out how the money's being spent, make sure it's being spent in the right avenues that do promote our city. I think tourism is an area that we lack a little bit right now, quite honestly, and we could do a better job. And of course, if we had more money, we could do a better job. So anyway, that's the perspective that we have on this issue. We may not be as opposed to the taxes as much as we are opposed to how you're intending and spending the money right now. So once people here that could answer any questions that you have, Scott, of course, feel free. Any thoughts from the Hotel Association if you have any questions at this point?
I'll ask councillors. Councillors, do you have any questions on the presentation? Any? Councillor members.
I am one person who travels a lot, and just last, let's see, for 2018, I paid $307 in accommodation fees, okay? And this year it's $345, and the year's not finished yet. And it's all these places I go, and I see that as generating funds, but I guess one of the things that I wanted to speak about is that you talked about tournaments, 6, but you know, we have festivals and there's a lot of other things that are happening in this community. I work with the government, we have a lot of government meetings that come here and they stay in hotels, and I'm just saying that a lot of them who are coming to our community, who are in these festivals and that, are using a lot of our, the Dauphin rec services and the swimming pool and everything else that we have there. We also have curling tournaments. There's a lot of things that you haven't mentioned. So I'm just saying that as a traveler, going to that, I go to all these communities and play. And not only that, but I'm going to other provinces. And wherever I travel, there is always accommodation, or they call it tourist accommodation. There's different words for that. So I'm asking you, as you travel, because I know you travel, in all the places, have you kept a record of the taxes that you pay in other communities?
No, honestly, I'd say I don't. And what I would say is that when somebody says to me, what did it cost for your hotel room? I simply look to the bottom and whatever it was, $165 or, in some cases more. So I think I want to sort of restate the point that I'm not so sure that we're as opposed to an accommodation tax as we are opposed to the proposed way of spending it. So I agree with you that we bring conventions to town. You think of the Ukrainian festival and Country Fest and lots of hometown hockey. What a great event for our community. So there are tourism events that benefit the hotels as well as some recreation. What we're saying is we'd like more. We'd like to have more events, and we would tell you that a few years ago, we were a city that was better at promoting ourselves than we are today. I would ask you to check with Travel Manitoba right now. We're not on their radar at all. Clear Lake Country, if you've heard of Clear Lake Country, which is a direct advertising campaign from the hotel people and the store owners in Clear Lake to generate traffic to a place that already generates a lot of traffic. But they're pushing even harder to generate even more traffic, especially in what they call their shoulder seasons. Tourism's a big deal, and there's lots of money there that can be accessed through the government if we were to put some money forward and put some effort forward. I think there's a lot of things that could be rented out in the rec center. You know, I believe there's more events that could happen at DRS that are happening today. We've seen a great surgence in rugby, and there was supposed to be a rugby event that got snowed out, but anyway, that's just life. And so there's lots of things around recreation that can be created with tourism dollars. But I think to simply replace the goalposts with new goalposts won't do anything to attract another rugby tournament. However, if we took this money and spent it on tourism and molded it in a different way, I think we could benefit the entire city. I understand, and I want to make clear, I understand the shortage that we have at DRS. I don't misunderstand that at all. I just don't believe this is the way to find the money to fund it.
Councilor Stickhile.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for your presentation, gentlemen, and bringing the information forward to us. My question is more, I guess, for the gentleman behind you with the existing business owners. You mentioned the vacancy rate, and just off the top, I'm just kind of wondering, obviously, the claim is that we have the numbers wrong, and I'm just kind of wondering what type of percentage is the vacancy rate or the, I mean, on average, I guess.
Yeah. Harvey and Leo are probably best to talk to that.
Go ahead, Harvey. Well, ours is less than 70%, and we lead the market in occupancy.
How much less? A little bit?
Well, what's
A little bit. We're down 1.75% this year over last year.
Okay. 68.
Sorry, I missed what you said, sir. What did you say first? What was
We
your
are
first-
down 1.75% this year over last year.
Which was what, 60? I didn't hear the percentage.
Less than 70% that we are now. We're just a touch above 69%. And we enter into a season that will drop off.
And then we're running about less than 60%, 55, 57. So,
Any other questions of Councilor? Councilor,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for your presentation. Very informative. Being a business owner myself, I certainly understand collecting funds for other organizations in the government. What would it mean, how much time would you have to invest in collecting the tax and bringing it forward? Do you have any idea what that time commitment is?
Maybe Corey could.
Or you'll be the-
As it's proposed now, twice as much as it should be. Based on, we have other properties that are in, that have accommodation taxes, and everything is aligned, so what I mean by that is, you're probably 4 or 5 hours by the time you've done all your calculations. But this would be more, because you're gonna be calculating stuff separately, because of the 60 days.
Okay, so do you have a recommendation then moving forward that you would like to see, other than you're concerned with putting the monies to capital projects? Does the hoteliers have a
Well,
recommendation?
Personally, I mean, if you're gonna ask me personally, I would like to see no tax. I'd like to see it apportioned out through everybody that pays taxes to the city. And I know that directly affects my own business, but it makes a lot more sense economically to spread that over everybody when it's capital costs than it does to house a few businesses to collect it for you. And that's not saying that we wouldn't be for something that would directly benefit our businesses to generate revenue. Absolutely.
So, but I think Carrie's question is, assuming there is a tax that we can all agree on how the money's spent, you would have some recommendations on the administration of it, some of the wording within the bylaw.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think that's where I could be helpful in that, because of the other taxes in the other communities, there's some good, I mean, if you're deciding you're gonna go with the tax, there's some good and some bad in the taxes that I've seen. And if you know, I mean, the comment about the new goalposts, and, I mean, that really kind of hit me, because if you really want to drive people to your community, and you want the hotels to collect the tax, then you should make sure that you're continually feeding that by driving more people to your community. So having money spent, dedicated money spent to attracting events here is what you want to do. And I understand the importance of making sure the fields look good, and you got to have all that right if people are coming here, but you have to dedicate some money to bringing events here. And if you don't, then you're fooling yourself.
And just one thing, also Carrie, to your point or to your question, in the letter that you'll see from the Best Western, there's a proposal in there to mirror a little bit more what Brandon's doing, which is a per dollar, Brandon has a $3 per night tax as opposed to a percentage, which gets administratively a lot easier as well, and might accomplish the same thing, but just kind of easier.
It's interesting when I got your bylaw on Friday, and then compared it to Churchill, which is the most recent accommodation tax that's happened, I'm kind of comparing them. There's a lot of similarities, and then not that there's the be-all and end-all, but when you get to how it's going to be, what the percentage of money is going to be spent on, it breaks it up into categories of where it's going to be spent. There you go. 30% of it is going to be spent on attracting events. Should it be more? Maybe, but at least they've identified that 30% is actually going to be over here, and they've set up a committee where they would have representations from the hotel community on that. You need buy-in from the hotels. I think that's essential. And the hotels can be saying, yeah, hey, let's spend it on that. Let's bring that event here. We'll have our hotels looking good. It'll be good for you.
Any other questions? Leo has
Yeah, I have something to say. Is that we have other property in Kenora, Ontario, and then there's a hotel tax in there too. But again, we have one of the manager in the hotel. She's in the committee, and then she basically all the fund. So part of those funds is spent on the highway signs, and also that they spend the money in Highway 17, and also they advertise signs on the permanent highway in Winnipeg. All come visit the Lake of the Woods, and then come fishing and all things like that. That's what we did in Kenora.
Councillor Cuba?
Thank you for your presentation. I just wonder how, Mr. Cooley, if you don't mind the question to you. You had mentioned what ways can we more effectively use the DR for other events other than what they're scheduled for at the moment? Because it seems from September to June, it's full of hockey, which is great. But I know that arena can be converted quickly to. We've had concerts in the middle of the winter time. We've had the Remembrance Day service, etc., in there, and it's quickly flipped back to its intended use. Do you have any ideas how we can?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, okay, great. All right.
Well, and I don't want to get into too much and suggest that Ryan or his team aren't doing a good job. But when I look at things, I look at the key time from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. as your key marketing or the ability to sell. And I actually think once you put the ice in, that things like concerts are actually a bit of a nuisance in there, because they're not very efficient to turn around. Can we do it? Absolutely, but not very efficiently. It's pretty costly. And often we have to shut the facility down for 3 days to have a one-day concert. What I do believe is that we need to maximize the ice rentals, and I know while children are in school during the day that's not great ice to be able to rent out, but I think there are ways, and obviously the junior team uses the afternoon ice and has a favorable rate for doing so. But if you look at your weekends, so this weekend, I think Devin could probably tell us that ice was used pretty effectively, probably from 8 in the morning till 10 at night. But there's a lot of weekends when it's not. And honestly, a lot of Saturdays, you can go to that arena at 8 a.m. It's locked up tight. And I don't mean locked up in a bad way. I mean unrented.
Yeah, no.
And so I think there is more there. But I think it's going to take some events. I mentioned it on Friday. The AAA Bantam program is a relatively new program. It started about 3 or 4 years ago. And as it got going, I looked at the community of Surrey host a AAA midget tournament preseason. They do it to allow teams to sort of final showcase their players and do final cuts as to who's going to make the team. And I proposed to our guys, I say, why don't we get in early and get that Bantam tournament? It would be a tournament that we being DRS, would have to run, right? So we might get Parkland to help host it, but we might have to run it on our own. But that's okay. It's not hard to run a hockey tournament. And there just was no interest in doing that. And I think we need to evolve from an organization that rents ice to those that ask for it, to an organization that goes out and finds events to use our facility. The curling club, the pool, I know how big of a drain the pool is on our budget, and we're not going to change that. That's a necessary thing for our community, and it's very expensive to run. But are there things that we can do to generate revenue off that swimming pool, off the curling club, during the summer, off the soccer pitches and the rugby fields and the baseball diamonds? And I believe there's more that can be done. I think we need to think like promoters as opposed to order takers. You know, if you want to rent ice, they are very accommodating, but I don't know that they go out and look for events to host at their facility.
Deputy Mayor Bellmer.
First of all, thank you for your presentation. You had lots of good information. I appreciate that. I'm wondering, kind of doing this backwards, is it possible for people to introduce themselves and just say which business that they're representing? Because I know some of you, but I don't know all of you.
Good idea. I'm Dean Cooley, and I am a shareholder in the Supreme Hotel.
Corey Armstrong, Super 8.
Leo Hong, Camry Inn and Suite.
Harvey Armstrong from the Super 8.
Lance Glory with the Best Western.
I'm happy from Highland Hotel. Okay, thank you very much. We'll just that to clarify that taxpayers pay over 1.4 million in recreation right now. So just we'll get the misconception taxpayers aren't paying anything.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I know.
And we're following the guidelines of the Municipal Taxation and Funding Act, Sections 3 and 4. So that limits us for municipal purposes. It specifically says hotel, you can go meals, and something else, and land transfer. So, and most of the communities have chosen hotel tax. We'll take all your consideration, and we're gonna look at it again, and discuss it. If we need some help or some clarification, we'll be in contact with you.
Yeah, these guys would be, I say these guys more than me because they work in the industry every day. They'd be happy to sit down and talk through the facts. And
As of, we received notification from Municipal Services today that it's impossible to have it in by January 1st, so we're deferring implement. If it, I think we'll go ahead with it, but trying to clarify the expenditures of it. We're going, and other things that we'll be considering. So we'll delay that implementation till April 1st of this year. And also, this year, we'll be collecting, and those funds will be used for 2021. Okay? And that's the way we plan on going. Because if we don't know what we're going to do with it, we can, and I like the proposal of your input into some of it. But also, please remember that we have aging recreational assets, and they're part of the driver of tourism and economic development.
I'll make sure you have my contact info if there's any questions that I can be helpful with. When you talk about implementation of it, it's really important as we, sometimes hotels are booking in advance, they're booking group bookings in advance, those rates are all
Oh, yeah.
quoted and everything, so all that, the more lead time we can have on that, the better. And I just wanted to thank you again, not only for having me out, but, when I first caught wind of this, it was, we're gonna do second reading, third reading tonight, it was a done deal, and I appreciate the fact that, I know there was a good meeting on Friday, I appreciate the fact that, you're pausing to get the information correct, and if there's anything, if the will is to have a bylaw dealing with the accommodation tax, please reach out to your resources and make sure that you get the best possible tax, the best possible bylaw created, so it can be as effective as you're hoping it's going to be. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you, and come back when friendlier.
I've been here every summer.
Scott's here all the time.
I travel. I'm fortunate to have hotels in every community in the province. I travel a lot, and it's always friendly when I come here. This is an easy stop, so thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
And always consider Dauphin is awesome.
Okay, well,
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
I just want to read I'll just give comments, I'll read the resolution. Moved by Deputy Mayor Mayor, seconded by Councilor Yell, be it resolved that council accepts as information a presentation from Dean Cooley of Super 8 and from Scott Johnson of Manitoba Hotel Association regarding their concerns with the proposed accommodation tax bylaw. Further be it resolved that council accepts as information correspondence dated November 15th from Lance Delorier of BW Dauphin Limited regarding his concerns regarding the proposed accommodation tax bylaw. Thank you. Moved by Councilor Juba, seconded by Councilor Yell, be it resolved that all items listed under item 5 consent agenda be approved as follows and form part of these minutes. The first is proclamation for Domestic Violence Awareness Month, as recommended by the mayor and city manager. Whereas domestic violence is prevalent across all ethnic, racial, age, social, and economic groups, and occurs regardless of marital status or sexual orientation. And whereas the Parkland Crisis Center and Women's Shelter opened its doors in Dauphin October 31st, 1992, to provide alternatives to violent living for women fleeing domestic abuse. And whereas through the provision of the emergency shelter, counseling, education, and advocacy of the Women's Shelter and Crisis Center and Women's Shelter strives to empower abuse victims to make positive life changes. And whereas in 2018-19, the Parkland Crisis Center and Women's Shelter provided safe, short-term emergency residential shelter services to approximately 1,469 women and their children experienced domestic or family violence and received 1,200 crisis line calls. And whereas the City of Dauphin commends the Parkland Crisis Center and Women's Shelter and other public and private entities that strive to end the cycle of violence in homes and communities across the Parkland. Now therefore we, the Council of the City of Dauphin, do hereby proclaim November 2019 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month, dated at the City of Dauphin in the province of Manitoba this 18th day of November. And it's signed by myself, by the mayor. Outstanding water bills added to taxes. $20.95. These are all details. Previous tenants did not pay their final water bill at 111 Henry Avenue, $184, that's 88 cents. 205 6th Avenue Northeast, 176.92, 115 8th Avenue Northeast, a total of $412.75. As recommended by the Director of Finance and the Utility Clerk. As usual, with the Christmas and New Year's closures, it's been standard for 20-some years that we close at noon on Christmas Eve, December 24th, and on Tuesday, December 31st, we close at 12 noon. All city departments for the Christmas and New Year's season. And further be it resolved that employees required to work these closure hours approved by this resolution be given an equivalent number of hours off on a mutually agreed upon date. And further be it resolved that if any employee whose regularly scheduled days off are on December 24th or December 31st, 2019, no additional time off will be granted. There's the schedule for the hereby, and be it also be it resolved, the council hereby approves the schedule of City of Dauphin regular council meeting slated for 2020 as per Schedule A, as recommended by the mayor and city manager. And the filing items are AMM News Bulletin of November 18th, MPI streamlining process for firefighting invoices, FCM training and guides for asset management, and funding for bold and innovative municipal projects, municipal relations bulletin, audits and road closures, Prairie Mountain Health, their Health Plus newsletter of November 2019, Community Futures Parkland newsletter of October 2019, Province of Manitoba news release of Building Sustainable Communities Intake, Dauphin Right Program, the press release, District 34 Toastmasters thank you letter, Community Volunteer Income Tax Program, and Volunteer Manitoba 150 Youth Ambassador Program, as recommended by the Mayor and City Manager. Questions? I'll call the questions. All in favor? Motion carried. Moved by Councillor Eilers, seconded by Councillor Staccato, be it resolved that council accepts with information the following corporate report for the November 18th, 2019 regular council meeting, and that of the city manager. Go ahead, city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to start by saying welcome to Brian Baker, our new economic development manager. He had quite the interesting trip out here, hit some ice, and took some extra time, but got here safely. It was great to have him here in Dauphin over the last weekend with all the Rogers Hometown hockey events going on. We did have an opportunity to tour him around the community, show him some of the neighborhoods and houses for sale out there, and show him where the schools are. And he went for a drive outside of town today, south of town, and see the airport and the Cello / Country Fest site. So we've been showing him a lot of what we've got, and he's already starting to make plans, and the wheels are turning. So that's great to hear. And I do talk a little bit about one of the things I was working on in the last couple of weeks was the final payments for the Net Zero house, and so our Energy Manager Steve Sobering did tour Brian through that house, and I think if we gave him a pen, he might sign on a dotted line. So that was great to see. Over the last couple of weeks, I did have a few meetings with some formal and some a little less formal. Dealt with residents on a couple issues. One was regarding a ticket and an invoice. And so I worked with staff and a counselor regarding a resident's concern. With that, I reviewed the file and the course of action taken by our staff. I discussed the issue with everybody involved and reviewed the bylaw. I did assist the counselor to provide the resident with a possible course of action to take when they didn't find a satisfactory result with administration or council, and that would be to pursue it with the Manitoba Ombudsman. So I did provide that contact information. I also did talk with a resident regarding a dog bite. And talk about her experience with it. She did have several concerns that the city did not have control over, and that being callback time for public health. So I guided her to be able to perhaps call back to them. And as we have talked about before, the city is reviewing the animal control bylaw, which will address some of the issues that she raised, and we anticipate that bylaw being in place in early 2020. And we just had over 30 minutes of presentation regarding some inquiries, concerns, comments, whatnot about our accommodation tax bylaw. And so I did put quite a bit of time in the last week or so into gathering information for that. In terms of the budget, we are approaching the end of 2019, and our Director of Finance is definitely working with all of our departments regarding the amounts and projects assigned or that we have committed to do in 2019. So he is going over our budget list about that and seeing where we still need to work at and what we've already spent, what projects are complete and whatnot. We're also working with him regarding the 2020 budget requirements, what some of our capital ideas are, and we're working towards having a capital budget meeting with the council on December 2nd. I believe that I've been copied on several council's requests to our Director of Finance. If they're not in, get them in as soon as you can so you can put that information together. I do want to highlight something that is maybe on the negative side, but something that I guess we will continue to work through. And that would be the Building Sustainable Communities program. You did see in the consent agenda that the next opening for that grant application, or the next opportunity to apply for that grant, those grants are open now. But we did have an intake earlier in 2019. And if this program maybe isn't familiar to all council members, it was new for 2019. The provincial government combined several grant programs into one and called it the Building Sustainable Communities program. The city applied for 3 grants, and it involved the next stage of our active transportation corridor, Parkland Regional Meeting helped to fund that, as well as helped to fund a drainage plan for Main Street South. All 3 of our projects were denied. So I can definitely say that we were disappointed that not even one of our municipal projects made it through the first round. However, we will meet as staff and see what projects we can apply for in this next round, which is the applications are due January 15th, 2020. And I anticipate there'll be some discussion at that capital planning meeting on December 2nd to see if any of the ideas that we're putting forth would fit under that umbrella. And mentioning the Parkland Regional Meeting, we have received the facilitator's final report regarding the group's answers to the questions, and we will be reviewing that together with the arm of Dauphin to map out where we're going to go next with continuing to work as a region in the Parkland. As mentioned, Net Zero House, I signed off on the last invoices for that, so we're just doing the final accounting to see where we're at. I have to say, if I didn't have a hydro bill, that would be pretty nice. It was minus 31 a week ago at my house. So the temperature today was definitely different, but a house that touts no hydro bills would be great. So it is listed for sale with Remax Parkland Realty here at Dauphin. And last, I have to say congratulations to all of Dauphin. We came out as quite the force over the weekend for Rogers Hometown Hockey, and we saw so many different groups participating, or different hockey groups participating in the Parade of Champions of the kids coming in last night before the live broadcast. There were activities for 2 full days just on site there, plus so very many more things going around town. So what a wonderful weekend that we had, and so glad that we have our newest Dauphinite was able to participate in that. And that concludes my report.
Any questions of Council Deputy Mayor Bellemere?
Yeah, with regard to the grants that we didn't get, so the regional meeting was the meeting that we had already, and the drainage study for South End, that's not our stormwater one that we already have, this is the other one.
This is the one that we're doing right now. We applied for funding from the province because we were promised years ago that we did the study as part of our, to redo our development plan, that there was money available for us for that study. We didn't get any.
Okay, so it's not just the South End, it's our whole stormwater
It's
system.
that whole study. We combined those 2 studies together into one. They're being done right now, so the entire city, there's 2 pieces to it. The entire city, our underground network, all that drainage, and now the new drainage that we need in the South End. But the same consultants are working on those all together because it'll just be easier to combine everything and see how everything works.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Just on the, is there any type of appeal process with, do we reapply?
We're going to reapply, I think, in this next one.
Okay.
I hope.
So just to note, we will reapply, but we cannot apply for the things that we've already done. So we have to find new projects. We can't apply for the drainage study again. We can't apply for the regional meeting again. We have not done anything with our active transportation corridor, so we could reapply for that.
And I also said that for the diversion center that we talked about, that I would apply for that as well. So
Okay, yeah. Okay. Moved by Councilor Ayers, sorry.
I just wanted to question, is there a reason, or compared to the ones who got approved, is there a priority? Do they have, like when we do grant application, we do by priority, the ones that I sit on? I was wondering if there is a process in place for this, and do we know what it is?
So there is a review committee that does have representation from the AMM on it, and I was told that I'm gonna speak delicately here, Councillor Ayers. I was told that that group recommended at least one of our projects, and the drainage project is what I conveyed to one representative on the group, that was our most important, and it was our biggest one. So if we're going to have to put a priority on it, that was our priority. I was told that it was recommended. However, the review process happened before the election, and there was unfortunately some political jockeying, and that perhaps is how their recommendation did not come to fruition.
Thank you.
Moved by Councilor Ayers, seconded by Councilor Riel, be it resolved that the finance accounts haven't been examined by council, be hereby authorized and approved as follows. Checks number 25626 to 25696, 71 checks for $531,213.20. There was none voided in the past ranges, but some checks that were voided in the current range in the past. 2 checks were voided. Check number 25219, to Dauphin Rec Services for $19,528.15, the check destroyed. And Western Financial Group, check number 25111, Western Financial Group for $9,700.46 was lost in the mail. There's no electronic payments. So, any questions? I'll call the questions, all in favor? Motion carried. Moved by Councillor Juba, second by Councillor Eilers. Be it resolved that the council accepts as information the unaudited financial statement before FASB for the period ending September 23rd to September 30th, 2019, including the general fund balance sheet and general fund income statement and the utility fund balance sheet and income statement. Any questions of it? Just surveying it, everything seems to be on par. Our revenues are on target, and also our expenses are a little lower, so that's always a good sign. Any questions? I'll call the questions, all in favor? Motion carried. Moved by Councillor Stikhaila, seconded by Councillor Juba, be it resolved that council accepts as information the reserve report for the period ending September 30th, 2019. And our reserves are very healthy, so, and also the transfers have not occurred, so it's just a little high for temporarily. Any questions? Call the questions, all in favor? Motion carried. Moved by Councillor Laughlin, seconded by Councillor Yell, be it resolved that council accepts as information the budget variance analysis report for the period ending September 30th, 2019. And very comprehensive and a good analysis by our Director of Finance. Any questions? All the questions, all in favor? Motion carried. Moved by Councillor Juba, seconded by Deputy Mayor Bellemare, be it resolved the council accepts as information the following Protective Services report for November 18th regular council meeting, that of the bylaw enforcement report for October 2019. Any questions? All the questions, all in favor? Motion carried. Moved by Councillor Laughlin, seconded by Councillor Stikhaila, be it resolved the council accepts as information the minutes and reports of the following committees: for Dauphin Museum, their regular board meeting of October 2nd, manager report of November 6th, and all their financials, and Dauphin Rec Services regular board meeting of October 30th, 2019. Any questions? Oh, no. Councillor.
Thank you. I'm not sure if Devin or yourself, Mr. Mayor, can answer being part of the rec committee. It says they anticipate a $72,000 loss this year. Historically, has the rec services, is that more or than normal, or has there always been historically a loss? Is that higher than normal or no?
It's always been close. It's always been close. I wasn't at the last meeting, so Devin, were you there?
Fortunately, I was not there, so.
But it's always been very clean. It's that's some of the problems we have there, and surplus funds to, so it won't be asked to, we won't trim the budget for next year. We'll just take it out of our accumulated surplus.
Okay, thank you.
All in favor? Moved by Councillor Loughlin, seconded by Councillor Juba, whereas Mayor Dolan attended the 2019 Liverpool Cities Forum in Victoria, BC, October 28th through the 30th, hosted by ICLE Local Government for Sustainability. Be it resolved, the council accepts as information a document produced and adopted by local government elected officials who attended the 2019 Liverpool Cities Forum Leadership and Legacy sections entitled The Victoria Call to Action, Building Resilience Through Thriving and Inclusive Communities, which provide background and information regarding the history of land in Canada and the state of environment with respect to climate change. Further be it resolved that council accepts as information the following calls to help to address the climate challenge, to ensure that all actions we take are done through a lens of decolonization, health and well-being, equity, inclusion, racial and social justice, and ecological integrity, to empower and resource our communities and use our role as leaders to create opportunities for education, connection, belonging, and community building, to enrich the fabric of our communities by building towns and cities that create a sense of place and strong connections to neighbors, to leverage the interconnection of issues and look for opportunities to solve complex challenges that generate multiple benefits and solutions, and to seize pockets of brilliance in our communities coming from youth and residents as a bottoms-up solutions to our collective challenges, and to invest our collective resources to deliver short and long-term solutions that will have the greatest impact and help us go further faster. Further be it resolved, the council will consider these points during their governance. Any questions? I'll call the questions. All in favor? Just as an aside, I still haven't got around to writing a report on it, but it's been a busy couple of weeks, so just a couple of highlights on it, and I think I want to share it with council there as we move towards climate adaptations policy. Moved by Councillor Juba, seconded by Councillor Loughlin, be it resolved that council accepts as information a letter dated September 27, 2019 from David Neufeld, Assistant Deputy Minister of Municipal Relations, advising that the city's grant request to the Building Sustainable Communities Program to fund the green study was declined due to the significant number of proposals received, and that was mentioned in the city manager's report. Any questions? All in favor? This is for, I'll do this for. Moved by Councillor Riel, second by Councillor Loughlin, whereas flags are recognized as paramount symbols of our nation and must be provided proper consideration and etiquette in displaying them in honor. And whereas the city of Dauphin regularly flies the national flag of Canada, provincial flag, and municipal flag at all three locations within the city. And whereas administration recommends implementing a flag policy to establish clear guidelines and responsibilities for flag etiquette, and to address a request for flying a flag from an outside organization symbol flagpole. Be it resolved that council accepts as information policy 3.6, flag policy outlining the etiquette and process for the use of the city of Dauphin flagpoles. And further be it resolved that council approves policy 3.6, flag policy. Any questions? All the questions, all in favor? Motion carried. Moved by Councillor Juba and seconded by Councillor Loughlin. Whereas the city of Dauphin posted a request for proposals for the purchase of a sport utility vehicle for the utility foreman, which closed November 8, 2019. And further be it resolved that council accepts as information a memorandum dated November 14, 2019 from the Director of Finance outlining the 7 proposals received for a sports utility SUV for the utility foreman. Process followed to narrow it down to 3 compact models and recommending the following supplier and vehicle: the Dean Cooley GM 2020 Chev Equinox LS for a purchase price of approximately $26,693 plus applicable fees and taxes. And further be it resolved that council agrees with the recommendation and instructs administration to grant the request for proposal to Dean Cooley GM for the above mentioned vehicle. That's the, it was in the budget, and it'll be taken out of our reserve. Go ahead, Councilor Ryder.
I was just asking, is that to include the taxes or is that?
Yeah,
Plus.
plus applicable taxes.
Okay.
Any other questions? All the questions, all in favor? Motion carried. Moved by Councilor Yale, second by Councilor Juba, be it resolved that council accepts as information correspondence dated November 8, 2019 from Lorraine Schmidt, Secretary Treasurer for the Dauphin Vet Services District Board, requesting the board's first half of the 2020 appropriation, which is $5,151.39. And further be it resolved that council forwards this appropriation request to budget deliberations for 2020. And as chair of the vet board, we decrease the allocation to member counselors by $10,000, so our fee went down a little bit too. And since we're the major, our share of the taxes is, or our share of the allocation is a little larger from, and the RMs is quite large. We're about equivalent. Our allocation, we'll notice a difference in how much we pay. Any questions? I'll call questions, all in favor? Motion carried. Moved by Councillor Loughlin, seconded by Councillor Stakala, whereas the city of Dauphin is part of the established Dauphin Vet Services Board. Whereas the province requires the parties of the Vet Services District Board to sign an agreement for the operation of a veterinary services district under the Veterinary Services Act. Be it resolved that council authorizes the mayor and city manager to sign and seal the 2020 Form 1 of the Dauphin Vet Services Board to be in effect for 2020. I can't remember the amounts, but and then it's $10,302.77. So that's down from, I think, $13,000
How did you get that $10,000 down? What were you guys doing? No, but the whole budget is 10,000 down, right? Yeah.
We had discussions.
Okay.
Any other questions? All in favor? Motion carried. Moved by Deputy Mayor, this is a long one, so don't fall asleep. Deputy Mayor Bellemare, second by Councilor Juba, whereas the city of Dauphin conveys treated water from the water treatment plant to the city via an aqueduct that over its length is located partly under private land and partly under right-of-way of the provincial highway south of Dauphin. And whereas there are caveats on the land above and adjacent to the aqueduct to protect the city interest for maintenance and future improvements. Be it resolved, the council accepts as information a memorandum dated November 7, 2019 from the city manager outlining a proposal from First Nation TTFN to develop land adjacent to provincial highway 10A, 5A and convert it to reserve land, which is also adjacent to the city of Dauphin aqueduct. That the city of Dauphin has a caveat registered on the land protecting the westerly 8 feet of it to protect the city's interest with respect to maintenance and future upgrades to the aqueduct, and that the land cannot be converted to a reserve with a caveat registered against it. Further be it resolved that during a meeting on August 2019 attended by the city of Dauphin, TTFN reserve number 219 and TTFN number 292 Holdings Inc. and the Indigenous Services Canada, the group agreed that it would be in their best interest to enter into a memorandum of understanding which outlines the purpose of the relationship and process by which an agreement will be registered on the newly created reserve land to ensure the city aqueduct remain protected, and further be it resolved that the city solicitor review the memorandum of understanding and process as outlined by TTFN and their affiliated entities that would continue to protect the city's rights in the same manner as the existing caveat, and advises that the city's interest would remain to be secure. And further be it resolved, the council supports its development and authorizes the mayor and city manager to sign and seal the memorandum of understanding on behalf of the city of Dauphin. This has been a long process, and I think all parties our city solicitor has okayed this action, and we feel there's won't impede on our operations of our water supply if necessary, if there's a break or anything. Any questions? I'll call the questions. All in favor? Motion carried. Moved by Councilor Staccato, seconded by Deputy Mayor Bellemare, be it resolved the council accepts as information a letter dated November 15th from Randy Daly, chairperson of the Crisis Prevention Task Force, outlining the group's objectives and financial needs for their under one roof pilot project that provides welcoming space with a hot meal and information on various community services and programs, and requesting financial support from the city of Dauphin in the amount of $15,000 per year to provide assistance with a continuation of the program in 2020. Further be it resolved that council appreciates the value of creating a supportive environment and connecting individuals to services in our community, and forwards the funding request to 2020 budget deliberations for consideration. Any questions on this? All in favor? Motion carried. Moved by Councillor Yell, seconded by Councillor Locken, whereas the RM of Yellowhead is putting forth a proposal to partner with the Assiniboine Community College and be a host site for the diploma legal license. Practical Nursing Program, DPN, to start September 2020 or January 2021. Be it resolved that City of Dauphin supports the RM of Yellowhead's proposal to partner with the Assiniboine Community College and hold and host this diploma licensed practical nursing program. So the site in Dauphin is a permanent site, and they have rotating programs throughout the province, so it's always good to, I think the last, can't remember where the last one was, but it's a program that members of the local area can get their LPN. Any, Councillor Eilers?
Yes, I was just trying to, when I was reading this, I was kind of confused with, they said, please note in-kind commitment, and then the donation of equipment may be used in the program, and then when the equipment may be issued to your facility once the program is completed. So are we donating equipment, because that's...
We're just supporting their application.
Oh, okay, because this sounded...
We have no commitment, no. There's, the program is structured such that a certain amount of equipment has to be bought, and once the program is completed, the program will be given to the local hospital. Another question?
Nope.
Oh, we're.
Oh, you voted again.
All in favor?
Now that I understand.
All in favor? Motion carried. Moved by Deputy Mayor Bellemare, second by Councillor Loughlin, whereas the Watershed District Act to proclaim in early 2020 the Intermountain and Turtle River Watershed Conservation Districts will transition to becoming the Intermountain Watershed District. Be it resolved that the Council accepts this information correspondence dated October 28th from Lori Hickaway, Administrator of the Intermountain Watershed District, and regarding the City of Dauphin's appointees for the Vermilion River Sub-District. Further be it resolved that Council reappoints Councillor Eilers and Jim Hesketh as the city's reps for the Intermountain Watershed District Vermilion River Sub-District for a one-year term, starting December 1st, 2019. Any questions? All the questions, all in favor? Motion carried. Moved by Deputy Mayor Bellemare and seconded by Councillor Loughlin, be it resolved that the RM of Dauphin and the City of Dauphin Saskatchewan Limited, commonly referred as OSS, for the purchase and development of land and subsequent incentive. Further, to be it resolved that issuance of the incentive, that being a rebate on land fees for Lot 1 totaling $40,400, was dependent on the conditions of the agreement being completed and an occupancy permit issued by the Office of the Fire Commissioner within 2 years of the date of title transfer, and the due date being August 15, 2019. And further be it resolved, the council accepts this information, correspondence dated October 29, 2019, from Curtis West of OSS, requesting an extension to the agreement in order to complete the conditions and continue to be eligible for the incentive. And further be it resolved that council accepts this information, memorandum dated November 14th, from the city manager outlining the situation, indicating that the RM and the City of Dauphin Liaison Committee discussed the issue and recommended that the deadline be extended to June 1st, 2020. And further be it resolved that council agrees with the recommendations and authorizes the extension of the agreement with 625279 as Saskatchewan Limited, OSS, to June 1st, 2020, with no further extensions authorized upon expiring. Any questions?
What was the reason for the delay?
They never completed the building. Never got fire commissioner. They have to work on finishing the building.
Okay, so it didn't meet up the standards set out. Okay.
Any other questions? I'll call the questions. All in favor? Motion carried. Moved by Councilor Staccato, seconded by Councilor Loughlin, be it resolved that bylaw 08-2019 being a bylaw of the City of Dauphin for the purpose of imposing a tax on accommodations in order to support recreation facilities that reinforce economic development, tourism opportunities, and active living, be now read a second time as amended. And the presentations and that, we'll discuss them, and we'll adopt it on third reading down the line. Any questions? Call the questions, all in favor? Motion carried. And usually it happens after second reading that his amendments will be entertained at that time. Moved by Councilor Loughlin, seconded by Councilor Staccato, be it resolved that bylaw 09-2019, being a bylaw of the City of Dauphin to prescribe fees, fines, and charges for municipal services, be now read a first time. Any questions? All the questions, all in favor? Motion carried. Moved by Councilor Loughlin, seconded by Councilor Eilers, be it resolved that bylaw 10-2019 being a bylaw of the City of Dauphin to establish minimum standards of maintenance for dwellings, structures, and properties in unused vehicles be now read a first time. Any questions? This was just clarification of the vehicles, right? Call question, all in favor? Motion carried. Moved by Councilor Staccato, seconded by Councilor Locke, be it resolved that bylaw 11/2019, being a bylaw of the City of Dauphin to provide an administrative penalty scheme for parking and general bylaw enforcement be now read the first time. Questions? All questions, all in favor? Motion carried. Moved by Councilor Staccato, seconded by Councilor Loughlin, be it resolved that bylaw 12/2019, being a bylaw of the City of Dauphin to authorize the creation of a recreation active living reserve fund be now read the first time, and that's in conjunction with the accommodation funds. All in favor? City manager.
I just wanted to point out for this bylaw 12/2019 that authorizes the creation of the Recreation Active Living Reserve. We can do this effective January 1st, regardless if there's any accommodation tax on at that point or further on in the year. It just opens up the activities that can be, that the reserve can be used for. So not solely recreation, but active living in Dauphin as well.
I just wanted to ask, was the group aware of this active living? Did you make the,
It was in the bylaw, it's in the title of the bylaw, and I mentioned several times. And that was something that we, as a council, decided that we wanted to promote recreation and active living. I didn't specifically speak to them about it, but the words are there.
because I just got the impression they were really about what it was being used was just recreation. I think they missed the whole intent of that, but that's just my opinion.
Moved by Councilor Loughlin, seconded by Councilor Staccato. The red, be resolved, the council accepts as information the invitation to the events listed below. The Red River Basin Commission's Sub-Chapter 6th Annual Christmas Gala. So I would be invited to that November 21st.
Figured we're awesome Dawson.
Goodwill.
The Christmas, Dauphin Christmas Parade of Lights on November 30th, 2019. I got a letter on that, and I talked over with Pat Risky, the chair of the parade lights. We asked her to move our float to the front. I'm not going in a separate car or anything. I'll be with all my fellow councilors on the float, and we'll be at the, sort of at the beginning of the parade.
I was talking to Rory about showing up for that. I don't know if he'll be there. We'll see.
And anybody else? Okay, all in favor? So, starting, the parade of lights is November 30th, 5 o'clock, usual place.
5:30.
Is it? Oh, really? I never read that. Okay, I would have been there early.
Well, it's good you could have visited.
Councilor Flivage is, and I think it's time to go to the right.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On November 4th, I attended the regular council meeting. November 6th, I attended by teleconference the Canadian Municipal Network on Crime Prevention meeting. November 11th, I attended the Remembrance Day service. It was a very wonderful service. Thank you to all that put that on. And as well as I volunteered for the Under One Roof. We had over 25 participants, which was almost double than what we had the previous Monday. And just a reminder that that is going on again tonight from 5 to 9 at the United Church for anyone interested. November 12th, I attended attended the planning and priorities meeting here at City Hall. November 13th, I attended the community, the DD, the Community Foundation meeting at Luncheon at the 8th Avenue Hall. It was very informative, and I learned a lot there. November 14th, I attended the Chamber Board meeting here at City Hall. In these last 2 weeks, I've worked with 3 citizens in regards to how our ticket process works and how to dispute a ticket. That's Charlotte's reference in her report. One individual in regards to a dog bite, and one parking ticket. Apparently there's a no parking sign by Barker School that's not listed on our radar, so it worked with an individual in regards to that. I'd like to welcome our new economic development manager, and you'll get used to driving in our conditions. And safe journey home to you. I wasn't able to participate in any of the weekend activities. I had the stomach flu starting on Friday night, but my son was able to participate, and he had a wonderful time. And I would just like to thank all the downtown businesses for all the staying open late and having all of the women's nights and extra shopping. It's very nice to see, very well attended. Lots going on in our community, and here ends my report.
Deputy Mayor Bellmer.
Thank you. On November the 6th, I attended the RM Liaison meeting, and we had an informative presentation about zebra mussels from a conservation group south of Rocky Mountain. And there's work to be done to ensure that we can keep this invasive species out of our local lakes and rivers, because the impact that they have is quite significant, well, devastating actually. November 12th, I attended the Planning and Priorities meeting where we reviewed the bylaws that we have been giving the readings to this evening. Community events, the Rotary book sale recently took place, and it was hugely successful. And just a heads up, there will be another sale in the spring, so please save your books and watch for ads, because our very best customers donate books, then they buy books, and then they read them, and then they donate them back, plus their Christmas books that they're getting, and bring all of that down to the next book sale. On November the 11th, many people, including myself, attended the Remembrance Day ceremony at the Cup. A special thank you to the Dauphin Community Band for their moving music at this ceremony. They did a fine job. Also, it's gratifying to see the large number of groups and individuals who lay wreaths. This reminds us of what's important in life. Thank you to the Legion for their leadership in this and other community work. On November the 13th, I had planned and attended the luncheon organized by the Dauphin and District Community Foundation. The community groups received their grants this year. They were in attendance and were honored. As well, Kathy Freiheit was honored as Philanthropist of the Year for 2018. Kathy has been a big community supporter for many years. In particular, she was instrumental in establishing the Almost New Store and the Hero Club. Plus, she served on the Youth Justice Committee for 20 years, and she also chaired the Community Foundation. Also, Delilah Rempel, who is the community manager from our local RBC, announced that our Community Foundation was the successful recipient of a $15,000 grant to carry out a community project. One requirement of this grant is that youths ages 15 to 29 be involved with the whole process. And we have a really capable group of young people who have identified the need to address the diversity within our community and have decided to do that through art and music initiatives. And actually, Mayor Al, the resolution that you brought back from Victoria ties in very nicely with this project that we're doing. And if you're interested in becoming involved, mark Saturday, July 11th, okay, it's warm out, but not that warm. Saturday, January 11th on your calendar, and come to the WAC at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and we're going to flesh out what those music and art initiatives look like. So we're looking for all kinds of people who are interested in these areas of various abilities. They just want to get out and work together and have some fun. under one roof has already been mentioned by Councillor Reel. She's been very involved with that. I just wanted to mention too that donations are being accepted if you have extra sleeping bags or towels or toiletries or toques, cards, board games, all of those are being accepted. So you're encouraged to drop by and check it out. Community members are really embracing this, and coffee is on the whole time. And kudos, a big thank you to everyone involved in Rogers Hometown Hockey this past weekend. The volunteers, the city staff, DRS staff, the business people who decorated their windows. They cut out 155 maple leaves at Ashcroft Mission. They really got into that. And also everyone who assisted with the Rangers Ukrainian night, which was also very well attended. Ryan Rollick from Roofs carved and painted 300 pierogies out of hockey pucks. And that was for the second intermission 50-50 pierogi talks. So this weekend certainly put Dauphin on the map again. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My report goes back a little ways as I missed a meeting and I made a meeting by teleconference, so bear with me. I'll be quick as possible. October 7th, I attended the regular city council meeting here at City Hall. October 15th, I attended a workplace safety meeting here at City Hall. Also went on a few site inspections, and before our next meeting, I think we have a couple more site inspections that need to be completed. October the 16th, I attended the regional municipal meeting at Credit Union Place. It was great to see elected officials and from around the district and exchanging great ideas with members of the AMM. And it was a great afternoon, and the report is now here, so onward and upward with that report going forward. Thank you to Charlotte and our mayor for organizing that event. It was well put together and well facilitated. October the 21st, I was unable to attend the city council meeting. October the 28th, I attended the planning and priority meeting at City Hall. November the 4th, attended regular city council meeting by teleconference as I was home with the national flu bug. November the 12th, I attended the planning and priority meeting here at City Hall. And the 14th, I attended the Riverside Cemetery board meeting at the administration building at the Riverside Cemetery. For community events, October the 10th, I attended the Dauphin Firefighters Open House at the Fire Hall. On October the 16th, I attended Habitat for Humanity chapter board meeting, and I just want to tease the media that's still here that we have a major announcement that we will be making in the next day or so. I have a meeting tomorrow, and then later on this week we'll be making a major announcement in regards to some events wrapped around our Habitat for Humanity fundraising events and something else. October 22nd, I attended the Parkland Toastmasters meeting at Silverman Community College, and I asked the Mayor Dauphin if I could present the proclamation to the President of the Toastmasters, and I was honored to do so on the Mayor's behalf. They really appreciated the proclamation for Toastmasters Week. November the 2nd, I attended the Firefighters Ball at the Ukrainian Orthodox Auditorium. And as mentioned, congratulations to all those that were presented with their service medals, and to the organizers, and it was a great evening to share. November the 11th, along with the other members of City Council and a lot of members of the community, attended the Remembrance Day commemoration service at Credit Union Place. I was able to place a wreath on behalf of Habitat for Humanity. I was joined by our youth ambassadors to place that wreath, and they were excited to do so. And as Ford mentioned, I just want to say I attended events associated with Rogers Hometown Hockey this past weekend in downtown Dauphin. Thank you to all of the volunteers and organizers for this event. It truly was an awesome weekend. Dauphin is an awesome community, and I've said so for many years, but not as many as one would think. But it truly was a memorable weekend for our community, and some of the activities that I attended were the Ukrainian Hockey Night Credit Union Place, and I attended a few of the events downtown. I also had an opportunity to enjoy some warm weather and do some tours around my home. So it was a busy weekend, and that ends my report. Oh, excuse me, Mr. Mayor. I just want to, again, I had an opportunity to meet Brian Baker, our new economic development manager. Welcome to our community, and you'll hear a lot about Winnipeg Blue Bombers very shortly. All right, thank you. That ends my report.
Thank you. Councillor Adams.
Thank you. On November 4th, I attended the regular council meeting. November 7th, Ag Society AGM meeting. On November 11th, I was Remember Day service via televised because due to illness, I didn't want to spread it to other individuals. And thanks to all who fought for our freedoms that we enjoy today, least we forget. And thanks to all the volunteers and the service people who planned and organized this event. It was well attended, and it was very heartfelt messages that were sent. November 12th, planning and priority meeting. On November 13th, I too attended the Dauphin and District Community Foundation luncheon. And congrats to Kathy Freiheit. She well deserved the award, and she has been a real big part of the Dauphin and District Community Foundation. November 13th, while attending a webcast at the health unit, I toured the entryways to the Dauphin Regional Health Center. Much improved access. I couldn't attend. It was opening on Friday, which I couldn't attend. And I thought this is a really good access that we have now. December 14th, Cemetery Board meeting. On December 15th, New Jersey Day, and I was really impressed to see how many people were wearing their favorite. I continue to carry this because it's just a real nice blanket to wear in this kind of weather. And I checked out all the activities, and it was just amazing, all these semis that came into our communities and just set up. It was just amazing, all the work that went in. On December 16th and 17th, I attended various events at of course, at Rogers Hometown Hockey. There was the circle dance, meet and greet, plus wonder to all the activities that were there, and watched several games. It was a great exposure for our community and hockey. Ron McLean and Tara Sloan were amazing ambassadors, and there was a real highlight, the TV show that was shown, but they really highlighted previous hockey players as well as our youth in our community. And thanks to all the volunteers, all the engagement of all the community members who made this event fun. I also want to recognize Colton Orr, Bridget Lequette, and Butch Goring that added so much to this event. And I wanted to welcome to our new friend to our city of Dauphin. I hope that you enjoyed this weekend because there was so much to see and do this weekend. I just want to offer condolences to Crystal Zerba's family on her untimely passing. She was very active in the community, and especially with the Manitoba Girl Guides, Brownies, and Pathfinders. I have the pleasure of working with her at the Dauphin Regional Health Center, where she worked as an LPN. This is one person who was very dedicated to the well-being of patients, and she always was very instrumental in making sure that they receive the care that they deserve. And that ends my report.
Councillor Stakyle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For myself, on November 4th, regular council meeting, and on November 12th, I was in attendance for the planning priorities meeting. For community events, for myself, I attended, along with my family, the Remembrance Day service on November 11th. And just a thank you to all the volunteers and community members that were in attendance and that put that on. And this past weekend, it was hockey. November 16th, to start with that, Ukraine United at the Parkland Rangers game. Once again, it was an amazing Ukrainian themed night at the Cup. And it was filled with awesome entertainment and one-of-a-kind activities, and of course, a thrilling hockey game. Thanks to Ryan Rollick and his group for organizing this event again. And congrats to the Rangers on an awesome win on a special night. November 16th, 17th, of course, Rogers Hometown Hockey Weekend. It was just wonderful to see how our community embraced the event and took advantage of what it had to offer. It was amazing to be selected to host this event, and I'm extremely proud that we had an opportunity to highlight our amazing city. If there's one thing that I could take away from the weekend, it's definitely its community. Yes, the focus was about hockey, but it was about something more. It was about community. It was about people coming together for something to get behind, something to connect us, and really that's all it takes. We were able to showcase different community groups and organizations, and that's really something to be proud of. So not only thank you to Rogers Hometown Hockey, but also thanks to you, Dauphin. Thanks for all the countless hours of volunteering, and thanks for all the passion and effort you put forward. Thanks for being such a great community. And with all this hockey this past weekend, it would be remiss of me not to mention my gratitude to the organizers and volunteers of this past weekend's Pee Wee Hockey Tournament. Dauphin hosted a 14-team, 2-division Pee Wee Hockey Tournament. And although our our home hardware Pee Wee Kings did not win the championship, they did, however, finish third, capturing the bronze medal. Way to go, boys, on a well-deserved finish to the weekend. And I too want to extend a welcome to Mr. Brian Baker to our community, and I had the pleasure of meeting him this afternoon. Quick little chat, and we're looking forward to having you and your family here in the community come January. And that ends my report.
Councillor Laughlin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The mic works tonight, so that's excellent. On November the 4th, I attended the regular council meeting here at City Hall. On the 7th, I attended, I guess it would technically be our second to last hometown hockey meeting at the Watson Arts Center. And then on the 11th, I of course attended the Remembrance Day ceremony at Credit Union Place. Well done again. Obviously, just want to mention and say well done to all the workers at DRS who changed the arena from an ice rink to a stage and back. And they also, of course, had some help from the Dauphin Kings. On November 17th, yesterday, I was able to get back and spend about 20 minutes at hometown hockey right at the end. Most people have gone home at that point, but despite being on the committee and not being able to attend, I'm glad to hear it was a really good success. Really looks good on the community. And just quickly, an upcoming event, this one kind of close to the heart type thing. This Thursday, November 21st, the Dauphin Kings will begin another season of helping with the Dauphin Friendship Center's Food for Thought program. So I know there's probably thousands of kids watching right now. Kids, they'll be in your school this Thursday and every Thursday for the rest of the hockey season. So watch for that in the schools. And of course, welcome Brian to the community. I'll talk to you soon. And that does it for my report.
Our councillors or mayor can go to the food for thought.
You can. They serve at the Friendship Center as well, actually, for high school students. And they'll be signing autographs for any councillors or mayors that want to attend.
Thank you.
But donations are appreciated.
Our student council member, Cameron Thompson.
On November 4th, I attended the regular council meeting. I attended early morning jazz band practices on November 5th, 6th, 12th, and 13th. I've been attending driver's ed classes on Tuesday nights, and I've started in-car driving practice. On November 8th, I attended the DRCSS Remembrance Day service. Tomorrow I will be singing 2 songs for my audition for a role in this year's DRCSS musical, Mamma Mia. I continue to enjoy working as a cashier at Co-op, and I've worked 8 shifts in the last 2 weeks. A highlight for me, of course, was Rogers Hometown Hockey this weekend. It was an honor to represent the city of Dauphin at the thank you presentation on stage on Sunday afternoon, and being part of the VIP reception where I got to meet Ron McLean and Tara Sloan, which was an amazing experience that I will never forget. I would like to thank the mayor, city manager, and Rogers for including me in these events. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Well, I just getting down from the weekend a little bit, so such an exciting weekend, and to ponder or go into a secluded spot to bring my spirits down a little bit. But it was just, as Ron McLean said, it was an awesome weekend. And I'd like to thank our tourism director, Amber Kuchar, and Lindsay Kyle for co-chairing the various events and the marshaling of and obtaining volunteers for all the activities that were planned. They did an awesome job. And what impressed me was the engagement of youth in all the activities. When I saw the Parade of Champions, or is it Champions? Yeah. On Sportsnet last night, tears came to my eye actually. And it's such an awesome to see community involved in an event